we just had the Pelicans beat Phoenix on Sunday, and now Phoenix and New Orleans are tied for the 6th and the 7th seed. Sacramento behind 2 games behind the Suns and the Pelicans, and then the Lakers are also 2 games behind them where we stand right now. And the Warriors are kind of locked into that 10 seed, and then so it's probably do you think Phoenix falls back into there, or do you think New Orleans will flip them?
I think the Pelicans are going to flip them, and it's going to be the Suns in that play-in tournament. I think that ultimately, is it still possible for the Warriors to face the Kings in this matchup here? Do you think the Lakers can flip?
Yeah, I think the Lakers have been hot recently. I'm no Lakers stan, but I definitely think that they can flip Sacramento in these next few games there, and then it would just basically mean that LA plays Sacramento as the 8th seed instead of the 9th seed. It wouldn't really make a difference.
Yeah, because I always think that when it comes to the NBA and the NFL, they are an entertainment product, and I think they're going to try to make the in-season tournament, the play-in tournament, as interesting as possible. So Lakers Warriors is interesting, but I do think that Warriors and Suns is more interesting. Well, Warriors and Suns, and then LeBron or Steph facing KD in the play-in tournament, and then the other one facing off against the Kings. I think a Warriors and Kings matchup would be really good. That rematch from the first round last year, um,
Yeah.
or even a Lakers and Pelicans matchup would be really exciting. You have the Anthony Davis lore, you have the Brandon Ingram and his time with the Lakers there as well. So I think that's ultimately what they're going to try to set up is Lakers, Pelicans, and then Warriors, Kings. That would be a good matchup there. And I think that the Lakers would probably make it out. And then ultimately, I think the Kings.
Yeah, maybe the Kings. I think though, if New Orleans gets to the 6th seed, and I actually think that they will, um, because they beat Phoenix recently, so they'll be able to hop over them. I think the Warriors would actually beat the Suns because the Suns have been one of the worst fourth quarter teams in the NBA. Draymond versus Kevin Durant, Steph Curry versus KD, kind of the whole big three coming back together. And then you still have Andrew Wiggins on the team. And then as far as like a cohesive basketball unit, the Warriors still make more sense than let's throw Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, and Kevin Durant, even though they all do the same thing a little bit worse than each other, on the court and see what happens.
And that's been a mess.
Yeah, and it's been a mess.
Yeah, I think that the Suns are ultimately a play-in team, so I think they'll be in the play-in tournament. Whether it's the Pelicans, the Lakers, the Kings, the Warriors, whoever it is, I think that they're going to jump the Suns. I don't trust the Suns at all.
Yeah, I think they'll jump the Suns. And then I think the Lakers are probably going to be the 7th seed just with LeBron in these tournaments. He always wins, but that would put them, as of right now, toe to toe with either the Denver Nuggets, who have won 13 straight games versus the Lakers. So you probably get swept in the first round of the playoffs, or you would play the Minnesota Timberwolves, which I think the Lakers would probably win that because Rudy Gobert, not very useful in the playoffs if you've been watching this show or just watching the NBA playoffs. Don't have Carl Anthony Towns, and I don't know if Anthony Edwards can go nuclear enough to compete with Anthony Davis and LeBron James, just veteran overall experience. And then if that happens, it would set them up with, I don't know, in the second round, probably either with the Thunder or the Pelicans, the Lakers would face off against, depending on who wins that matchup of 6 versus 3 there.
Yeah, which I think if it's the Thunder, then they would lose. But if it's the Pelicans, then I think they could probably beat the Pelicans. I think
Yeah.
that would be a 6 or 7 game series.
Yeah, it's going to be tough because I feel like depending on where Denver is in the standings, whatever game that's going on to decide who is the 7th and who is the 8th seed, they're going to try and lose. Probably. You're probably going to try and throw the game because you don't want to face Denver in the first round if they're going to be the 2 seed there. So I think if the Warriors and the Lakers played to decide who's going to be the 7th or 8th, one of those teams, like, it's almost going to be them trying to lose and avoid Denver in the first round because everyone knows that Denver is better than Minnesota and Oklahoma City.
Yeah, 100%. I wouldn't want to face the Nuggets.
Yeah, and then After that, we pretty much have Dallas versus the Clippers locked in, which this, as far as the first round matchups, this one makes me the most excited out of any other matchup, even if Miami played the Milwaukee Bucks in the first round. Kawhi, Paul George, Russell Westbrook, James Harden.
Kyrie.
James Harden.
And then on the other side, you have Kyrie, you have Luca, you have that Mav. I really like that Mavs team. You have Grant Williams as well.
No, he's
So
gone. Remember the deadline? He got traded to.
that's right.
They replaced him though. But the Mavericks have been playing really well. They are 9-1 over their past 10 games, and then Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving in the playoffs. We saw how LeBron and Kyrie kind of went nuclear. Luka's not the defender that LeBron is, but it could be a similar sort of two guys on fire. What are you going to be able to do to stop them? Because now the Mavericks have a little bit of defense. They have shooting all around these guys, and these guys are going to be going for 30 a piece each night, and they're both probably going to have 9 or 10 assists in this game. And when you have someone like Kyrie Irving and Luka in the game at all times who can go scorched earth, but then on the other side, it's kind of the old guard versus Paul George. Is he going to choke? Is he going to be George Paul or is he going to be Paul George? Then you have James Harden. I mean,
Needless to say.
Maybe he'll give you a game in this series, and then
Yeah.
it is Kawhi Leonard going to be healthy, and which Kawhi are we going to get? But I think this one probably goes 7 games, or if it doesn't go 7, I would say the Mavericks win in 6. But this is our first series set in stone overall, and this is the one in the first round. I'm like, first round, Luka,
Mass.
Kawhi.
Yeah, incredible. Those are two teams also that could make a run for their money against any other teams in that West as well, just because of how stacked they are. I like the Clippers a lot. I don't trust the Clippers with just some of their personnel and what they've done in the playoffs historically. And then for the Mavs, I think like you mentioned Luca and Kyrie and what they can do. That's a team that could upset anybody.
Yeah, I think the Mavs could upset anybody. And if we're going like, it's pretty much everyone's picking Boston and Denver on a collision course for the finals. As far as the West right now, if I had to pick any team to beat Denver, it would be Dallas.
Hmm, interesting.
I think the only team that can beat Denver right now in a 7-game series would be the Dallas Mavericks. I've seen Phoenix try. I've seen it with the Lakers. You've lost 13 straight games. I don't think Oklahoma City is ready yet, especially with they've kind of had people looking at them under a microscope recently. They're like, okay, they're the 3 seed still, and they've kind of been crumbling under the pressure a little bit. You've had some bad losses coming into the playoffs, and then the Timberwolves. Come on.
Never going to trust them.
But with Luka and Kyrie, I would say those are the 2 players that if they're both on fire, that they would be able to push Denver the most. What team would you pick to beat Denver if you had to pick one?
Honestly, I mean, I like the Mavericks as a choice as well, but I do think that Thunder team, they are loaded. They got a lot of young talent. They don't know how good they are.
Yeah.
And so that's a team that, we've seen Chet, we've seen how good he's been. SGA, he's a guy that's in the MVP conversation. Like, they got the talent around them to do it. That young part could be either their detriment or their strength. And we'll see that in the playoffs because they come out flat in the playoffs and they're not performing to their abilities, then obviously we know at that point. But I think that in the West, it's going to be the Thunder, the Nuggets, and then I do think that the Mavericks can make some noise.
Yeah, I think the Thunder can definitely make that noise, and I like that pick because I've seen Chet struggle a little bit in these big moments, but it could just be getting into the playoffs. And then if you do match up with a Phoenix or New Orleans Pelicans in the first round, I think that first playoff, if they win in the first round, that giving them the confidence and they're like, okay, we can do this. We have SGA, we have Jalen Williams, who's one of the most underrated players in the NBA at this point. We have Chet. Everyone on our team who's in the starting lineup is shooting over 40% from 3, except for Josh Giddey. Gordon Hayward is shooting like 50% from 3 off the bench right now. So I definitely like that, especially if they kind of build up the confidence in the first round if they win. But I think if you face Denver in the second round, it's definitely a tall task, but who knows? Anything can
I
happen.
think it could go 6 or 7.
Yeah, 6 or 7. And